Today, we're jumping right into a real-time assessment of site safety. We're pulling straight from the official documentation to break down a frankly absolutely crucial issue, the construction site slip and trip mitigation strategy. As we walk through this document format together, we're going to look closely at the exact protocols, the real-world hazards, and the non-negotiable upgrades required to keep a worksite genuinely secure. So, do you think a slip or trip is just a minor accident? Take a second and really think about that. I mean, sure, in an office setting, a trip probably just results in a spilled coffee and a bruised ego. But out on an active construction site, that common misconception is incredibly dangerous. This assessment makes it crystal clear that we literally cannot afford to view these incidents as minor inconveniences. Because in construction, the reality is stark. Just one misplaced object can cause severe fractures, traumatic head injuries, or even a fatal fall from height. When you're dealing with exposed edges, heavy machinery, and constant, non-stop movement, a simple trip without any controls in place can instantly escalate into a deadly situation. The documentation absolutely does not sugarcoat the stakes here. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our structural roadmap for today's briefing. Number 1, the real slip hazard. Number 2, current hierarchy of controls. Number 3, the real-time action plan. And finally, number 4, risk levels and legalities. Starting off with Section 1, the real slip hazard, identifying the threats. The safety documentation explicitly targets 3 primary threats out there: scattered materials, uneven ground, and trailing electrical cables. These perfectly capture the day-to-day chaos of a build, right? You've got massive deliveries arriving, multiple trades crammed into the exact same zone, and temporary power lines snaking everywhere across the walkways. It is a dynamic, ever-changing environment, which means these threats aren't static. They are constantly evolving as the build progresses. If we aren't actively managing these 3 specific issues on a daily basis, we are essentially just setting traps for our own workers. Moving into Section 2, current hierarchy of controls, existing defenses. Before we get into the specific tactics, let's define the actual framework. The hierarchy of controls is a structured system used to manage these hazards. Notice how the flow prioritizes our actions. It starts right at the top with elimination, meaning completely removing the danger, and then cascades all the way down to personal protective equipment as your absolute last line of defense. The entire point of this system is to remove human error as much as possible long before we ever have to rely on a worker's gear to save them. Let's walk through each specific control currently active on site to see that multi-layered defense strategy in action. At the very top, elimination. We remove unnecessary waste and debris immediately. Simple, right? If it's not there, you literally cannot trip over it. Next up is the engineering control, where we install cable trays or overhead supports to physically get those trailing cables off the floor. Then we've got administrative controls, which dictate human behavior, things like implementing a daily housekeeping schedule and marking pedestrian walkways with really clear signage. And finally, at the base level, PPE, ensuring workers wear slip-resistant safety footwear, because if all else fails, their boots need to grip the floor. That brings us to Section 3, real-time action plan, upgrading our defenses. Now, let's break down how this builds into a highly accountable matrix. Listen, this isn't some wish list. This is a strict, real-time action plan. Pay attention to the specific timeframes and responsibilities. The project manager has 30 days to replace temporary cables with permanent underground or overhead routing. The site engineer is on the clock with 14 days to install anti-slip flooring on frequently used walkways. The site supervisor has just 7 days to introduce a brand new reporting system for hazards. The HSE officer, they must begin weekly housekeeping inspections with a checklist immediately. And the HSE trainer is locked in to deliver monthly slip and trip awareness training. By attaching a specific name and a hard deadline to every single action, the document creates real momentum and inescapable accountability right there on the ground. And lastly, Section 4, risk levels and legalities, final assessment. Consider the heavy contrast between the reality of inaction and a secured environment. Without these controls, the risk is severe: fractures, sprains, and fatal falls. But our target is low residual risk. This is the acceptable threat level achieved only after, and I mean strictly after, implementing all the mandatory and additional controls we just broke down. We simply don't settle for high risk. So why exactly are those controls, especially things like the weekly housekeeping inspections, mandatory? Well, it's because they are backed by a serious international legal anchor, specifically the International Labor Organization's Convention C-155 on Occupational Safety and Health, along with Recommendation R-164.
This isn't just some internal corporate policy we made up. It is a global legal standard.
The ILO details exact legal and practical measures. Employers are required by law to maintain a safe workplace. They must identify hazards through regular, routine inspections, and they absolutely must take preventative action before accidents occur. So the crucial point here is that compliance isn't just about ticking boxes on a clipboard to keep a manager happy. Compliance is the very mechanism that prevents accidents. Routine housekeeping isn't just cleaning up. It is a vital, non-negotiable legal measure keeping your team alive. Which leaves us with one final thought to close out this assessment. Whether you are a site manager enforcing the matrix or a worker walking the site today, you have to ask yourself, are you taking preventative action before the next accident occurs? The strategy is fully documented. The controls are crystal clear. The rest is entirely up to you.